If the Nigerian government continues to allow the killing of Christians, the USA will immediately stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria. We're going to do things to Nigeria that Nigeria is not going to be happy about and may very well go into that now disgraced country, guns are blazing, to completely wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible, horrible atrocities. I'm hereby instructing our Department of War to prepare for possible action. If we attack, it will be fast, vicious, and sweet, just like the terrorist thugs attack our cherished Christians.
Yes, we are back here on WLTH 1370 AM. I'm Scott Cannon. It is Friday, November the 7th. Good God, November the 7th already here in the year of our Lord 2025. The future is here. The future is now. And the future is not looking great right now for some of our brothers and sisters on the continent, the motherland. We're going to get into that in a segment I like to call Black to Africa.
Mbabara uma omengo mbabara uma omengo mbabara uma omengo mbabara uma.
So what's going on in the motherland? Let's start with Sudan, and one of the world's worst humanitarian crises. They've been going through a lot of hell over there in the country of Sudan. But a little bit of good news first. The paramilitary group that has been terrorizing millions in Sudan, the Rapid Support Forces, or the RSF, they have been at war with the Sudanese military for over 2 years now. They said yesterday that they had agreed to a humanitarian truce proposed by a U.S.-led mediator group known as the Quad. The agreement to the proposal came a week after the RSF seized El Fasher city, which had been under siege for over 18 months. It was also the last Sudanese military stronghold in Sudan's West Darfur region. A Sudanese military official told the Associated Press that the army welcomes the Quad's proposal, but would only agree to a truce when the RSF completely withdraws from any civilian areas and gives up their weapons per previous peace proposals. The official spoke out on the condition of anonymity to freely discuss the matter. Now, like I said, the fight is between the Sudanese armed forces and the Rapid Support Forces. This fight erupted in the capital region in April of 2023, so just 2 years ago. Now, you might be wondering, how can a paramilitary group be able to do battle with the actual military of a country? Well, it's a funny thing you'd ask that. The evidence shows that the RSF, or the Rapid Support Forces, receive financial and military support via networks in the United Arab Emirates. Okay, who's the UAE? Okay, including gold trade profits, front companies, and weapons procurement. Now, if you know anything about American policies and our foreign policy, you would know that the United States and the United Arab Emirates have a very close, multifaceted relationship built on military, economic, and diplomatic ties. So basically, the UAE is another one of our vassal states in the Middle East. They are providing the RSF with the support that they need to carry out this terror campaign on the Sudanese people. The U.S. is the United Arab Emirates' largest arms supplier. We have sold advanced systems, including F-16s, Patriot missiles, THAAD interceptors, and approved F-35 stealth jets under the Abraham Accords. The UAE has participated with the U.S. in coalitions in Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, Yemen, and regularly trains with the U.S. Central Command, or CENTCOM. So, here you go. We're not directly arming and funding the RSF, who are terrorizing the people of Sudan, but we are providing them with support. Or should I say, we're providing the United Arab Emirates, who are providing the Rapid Support Forces with support. The SAF, or the Sudanese Armed Forces, is just the regular military. The RSF are just the paramilitaries. They are seen as independent, but deeply influential. So the RSF recently captured El Fasher, which is the capital of North Darfur, which had been the Sudanese Armed Forces' last holdout in the Darfur region. Now, why is all this happening? Sudan has had, for many years, tensions between the military and the political elites. And there's different regional and tribal dynamics. Remember, Sudan split in half. In 2011, South Sudan split from Sudan and became the world's newest country, which it still is currently. The newest country in the world is South Sudan. They just recently, in the Olympics, pushed our dream team. They came real close to beating NBA players. So, I mean, South Sudan is a force to be reckoned with in the hoops realm in the near future. But that's neither here nor there. But as South Sudan said, we're getting the hell out of here. In Sudan, North Sudan at this point, things have sort of started to descend into chaos. The regions that are affected are Darfur. If you remember some years ago hearing about the genocide in Darfur about 10, 15 years ago, well, here we are again. Especially North Darfur and South Darfur, Kordofan, which is West Kordofan and South Kordofan, as well as the capital region and other states. The fighting has shifted westward as the front lines have changed. Now, the reason that the capture of El Fasher was so important, it actually signaled the RSF control over a large portion of Darfur and marked a huge escalation in the territorial gains and the humanitarian risk. The effects of this have been catastrophic. There's no doubt about that. This has been, again, one of the worst human rights issues in a long time. And it feels like we keep saying that because we just said it about Gaza and we said it about Yemen before Gaza, but it just shows you where the world is heading, that we have these sort of genocides over and over again. There was so much blood spilled by the RSF in these regions that you could actually see the blood on a map from space. Let me say that again. The genocide was so bad that you could see the blood in maps that were being taken from space, in pictures. That's an ungodly amount of blood. Millions have been displaced internally and across borders. There's been a collapse of all the safe zones that were supposed to be for women and children. All the infrastructure is destroyed. Millions of people are fleeing violence. Millions face acute food insecurity, including some areas in which famine has been confirmed. All of their health systems, the hospitals and everything, have collapsed because the hospitals have been attacked. There's large outbreaks of disease and water. The water is always one of the most important things because you need it. You kind of need water to live, folks. their water and sanitation systems have been destroyed. There's been reports of mass killings. Like I just said, you can see the blood from space, alleged war crimes, summary executions, rape as a weapon of, which is what you see in all these conflicts. This is just the, out and out horrific for the people in Africa, in particular Sudan. The UN Secretary General has said that the civil war that they're having has spiraled completely out of control. The humanitarian access is severely restricted, and the funding and the aid are falling short. So things have gotten so bad because this has been a perpetual thing. Like Sudan has been almost in a constant civil war since, really, with a few exceptions, since 1956. Like, there's been constant civil wars and little, these types of flare-ups every few years since 1956. It's really been bad. Now, the humanitarian organizations are emphasizing that more lives will be lost without impeded access and a large-scale support to the area. They are calling for accountability and arms flow monitoring from the United Arab Emirates, who in turn get their crap from us, the United States. But the aid gap is very big. A lot of the programs are underfunded or have been stopped altogether. And this has huge risk to the rest of Africa, especially Central Africa, because there's such a large-scale displacement of hungry people, desperate people. You see the risk of famine. And like I said, there's been a destruction of all the basic services of the people, particularly in Darfur. And, refugee flows are already going to neighboring countries. That's going to cause more instability in Africa and worsening of the global humanitarian burden. The human cost is going to be enormous. Women, children, vulnerable communities, they are the ones who get hit the worst. That's just the way it always be. That's just the way it is. So we need to watch for in the next few days whether the ceasefire is actually agreed upon by the Sudanese armed forces, whether they can both get together and hold this ceasefire. It's not looking great. Not looking great. We need to see if that humanitarian aid is able to reach into these zones. Hopefully it will be. Hopefully there won't be any more escalations in Darfur or Kordofan. Hopefully we can stop this famine and hunger in those isolated areas. And we need to see what the international response is going to be. We know that there was a big international response to Gaza. Will there be one to Sudan as well? Hopefully there will be. And finally, people have to be held accountable for these war crimes. Anytime you can see blood and bodies from space, because there's so many dead bodies being piled up, somebody needs to be held accountable. Somebody needs to be held responsible. So all of my thoughts, all of my prayers to the brothers and sisters in Sudan. Hopefully everybody will do the same and pray for the brothers and sisters in Sudan. Also, Nigeria. We got to talk about Nigeria. As you heard in the intro, Donald Trump, our president, El Presidente, is now concerned with what's going on in Nigeria. He's claiming that there's a genocide against Christians. That's what he's saying. Some people agree, some people don't agree. It's just like anything else that happens where in a particular society. Just imagine if a foreigner was asking us in America, do we live in a dictatorship, right? The Democrats and Democrat-adjacent people would say, well, yeah, we live in a dictatorship. The Republicans would be like, no, of course not. No, how dare you say that? Right? It's the same thing. It's kind of the same thing. it depends on who you ask, whether or not Nigeria's in a a genocide or not. I will say that the president of Nigeria is a Muslim and he's married to a Christian. And so what that says is that, and what a lot of Americans don't understand is that in a lot of places in Africa, these people live together and they all hang out together, and that happens all the time. Muslim and Christian marriages happen all the time in those types of places. So it's important to say that. Now, what is going on in Nigeria exactly? Multiple forms of violence are killing thousands of people. So, a lot of these Muslim extremist groups like Boko Haram and ISWAP, these are heavily armed bandits and kidnappers in the northwest regions that are often fighting with mostly the Fulani herders and sedentary farmers in the Middle Belt. And so many of these farming communities attacked are Christians. Majority Christian, like I said. Majority Christian. Not totally Christian, because like I said, Muslims and Christians kind of live together in a lot of these places. But they have produced very high civilian death tolls. Now, there are some advocacy groups and some organizations, like most Christian advocacy groups, that have called the patterns genocide. Now, the actual Nigerians themselves, most of the analysts and journalists in Nigeria, argue that this situation is very complex and driven by climate and land pressures, criminality, ethnic rivalries, weak governance, and Islamic terrorism, but not necessarily a centrally planned ethnic cleansing campaign like you're seeing in Gaza. Like what you're seeing in Gaza is the Israelis have literally tried to ethnically cleanse those people off the planet, or at least off of that land. For 70, 80 years, they've made specific efforts. They, have specific plans to remove a specific group of people off the land. Whereas in this case, Boko Haram are just, they'll go at it with whoever is against them in most instances. The journalists are warning that the term genocide is often used politically and can oversimplify the causes of these type of conflicts. Major international bodies and courts have not issued a formal genocide determination for Nigeria. And that's important. The UN and all these other people have not said that this is a genocide. They've said that about Gaza. They've said that about other places, but not in this case. Because like the Nigerian journalists have said, this is a very complex situation where these ethnic groups and these communities are very intertwined. Now, there are the death count, there are different sources, like data sets like the ACLED and reports from NGOs show that thousands of deaths have happened in these farmer-herder communities over the recent years. And some report Nigeria as having a very high number of Christians who've been killed globally in certain years. But exact attribution, who killed who, motive, and intent is often contested, and data collection is difficult in remote areas. And so you have to understand that genocide, there is a standard that has to be met with the term genocide. It is a legal term, and it comes with a very high bar. It requires proof of intent to destroy a protected group of people. Now, sometimes they might be religious groups, but not just many killings or ethnic cleansing. That's one of the reasons why Trump declaring a genocide in South Africa against white farmers was universally laughed at by even most South Africans. Yeah, hell, only 50 people took Trump up on his offer to come to the United States. Out of 7 million white people in South Africa, only 50 showed up here. And they were the most well-fed, fattest people you've ever seen in your life. Now, many experts and international sources say that the violence is multi-causal. There are terrorist groups, there are criminal gangs, there are people stealing food and land, who, you know, are just sort of robber barons or just sort of scavengers. All of this is being sort of wrapped up in genocide. So why exactly is Donald Trump so concerned with Nigeria all of a sudden? Well, maybe it's that Nigeria has one of the largest proven oil reserves in Africa and is among the top 10 in the entire world. Yes. They have 37 billion barrels estimated by OPEC and the U.S. Energy Information Administration of oil. They have a proven natural gas reserve of over 200 trillion cubic feet, which is the largest in Africa and also among the top 10 in the entire world. They have major oil producing regions like the Niger Delta and offshore deep water fields like the Gulf of Guinea. Nigeria typically produces almost 2 billion barrels of oil per day, and their capacity actually exceeds 2 million barrels per day. And so, and they have large export markets. Their crude oil is primarily exported to Europe, India, and Asia, while the United States has reduced imports since we had our own shale boom here. Now, despite being a top oil producer, Nigeria actually imports most of its refined petroleum products due to limited domestic refining capacity. The richest man in Africa, really the richest black man in the world, his name is Aliko Dangote. He is working to change that. He built a new oil refinery in Lagos with a capacity of over 650,000 barrels per day, which would be the largest in Africa. So it's important to say that. Let me get this caller right quick. Hello, caller. What's up?
Hey, man. I'm glad, brother. I'm glad you're so research knowledgeable about what's going on when this man want to talk about how his concerns about Christians anywhere, let alone Africa, which he called a shithole country.
He did. Well, you got to watch your language there.
He called all of them countries just shithole countries.
Whoa! You can't say that on the radio.
Well, I just said that the president of the United States said it on air.
Hey, he ain't on WLTH.
I'm just saying, you know, it's like y'all, when you do your disclaimer, I'm just a call-in. So it doesn't represent WLTH.
Oh, we know that, but, you know, it goes out on the airwaves, and people, you know, the FCC, we're still regulated by FCC rules. So, but go ahead and make your point, brother.
Well, he said it, and it's recorded. So, I mean, this man doesn't care about anybody but himself. And then I'm glad you had all of your stats and everything about Nigeria, because I have Nigerian friends here. I have medical people friends. I have construction-related friends. They're Nigerian. They've been here since the 70s and the 80s. And you know, it's like crazy because Nigeria is the largest oil that I know of, the oil reserve in Africa.
It is.
Well, if it ain't, it's close to it.
No, it is. It absolutely is.
They gave Gaddafi a horrible death. I heard those soldiers had their big bayonets and they stabbed that man in his rectum.
Yes, they did.
When they killed him. And all because he was trying to do what Ibrahim Traore is doing and to sell him and you know, in his country and the two other neighboring countries. You know, it's like it's time out for. I watched some very knowledgeable ex-military officers. You can see them on YouTube, and then you got these economist professionals, and they say like it's time out for the empire. U.S. empire has been going on for all since World War II. And we have a fiat currency, which is not backed by anything but empty promises.
Yep.
That's what we're trillions, 40, $50 trillion in debt with our so-called enemy, China and Russia. All right. But these countries over there who tired of France and the West, as they call them, are, Europe, mainly France, and us and England and all of them just been financially colonizing these countries for centuries.
Yep.
For centuries. And when you have a man stand up, then all we've been doing is what he's doing now. He's doing the same thing we've been doing since it was established. The Monroe Doctrine was established. So, it's like, you don't like what they're doing, we can't keep bullying you, so we're going to go down here, we're going to strong-arm you. We're going to start a war, and it's a twofold win for the man, because if he starts a war, it's a good chance he won't have to worry about the next election. Like he told them people, you vote this time, you ain't going to worry about voting again.
Yep. All right, well, thank you for your call, brother. Well, I got to go to a commercial break.
Later.
It is what it is, brothers. I want to thank everybody for tuning in here to Straight Out of the Cannon with me, Scott Cannon. When we come back, it's time for some happy happies. We'll be right back after these here on Straight Out of the Cannon on WLTH 1370M, the Region's Choice, the People's Voice.